In this example, I will show how to restrict the extent to which your loops run uh, by some external factor. Now, the application I'm going to use here is I have this function that will add a house, a little picture of a house onto an existing picture, and at a given coordinate, and I can also specify the width and the height of the house that I want to add to that picture. So I have a driver function which is called stamper, because um, if when I call this add house, it will basically stamp a house onto the picture. So let's see how it works. If I say add house, and to this picture, so I give the picture object name, and um, the next thing I need to specify is the top left coordinates. So I can manually put it as 0 0, and next is the width and the height of the house. So I will create two variables called stamp width, and I'll set it to 40, and stamp height I'll set it to 30. Now they're arbitrary values, they're not really related to these ones, but the width and height of the bigger picture, but it helps to have them as a multiple for this example. Alright, so I will give the stamp width and the stamp height as parameters into add house, and then I can display the house after adding, and it will look like that. Now if I zoom in on this picture, I can see that the house is very nicely added onto the top left corner of this picture. Now how far can I go to the right if I'm putting the stamp? So because I have specified the top left corner of the house, I can't give 399 or I can't put 399 here. I shouldn't be able to put 399, and I shouldn't be able to put 299 for the y coordinate, the top left of the house, inside the bigger picture, because then it will go outside the range. So the range that we can go to is, so this is to draw in the top left. To draw on the top right corner, I can go as far as width minus the stamp width. So if the house is 1 pixel wide, the place where I can draw from is 399, which sort of makes sense. So let's see what that's going to look like. And there I have two houses. So if I zoom in on these, I can see that both houses look similar, and the right edge is just touching the last pixel of the main image. So the same story goes for the bottom left and bottom right. So the bottom left would be fairly similar, where we say height minus stamp height. So this is the height of the house again, and let's see that. So I'll zoom in, and there is my house added in the bottom left corner without clipping that house image. So the final one would be the bottom right. So right now I'm just adding these things manually. What I want to do is I want to use a loop or a set of loops to stamp these across and down. So I am going to comment these things out just to keep them aside. I don't really need them, but I'll just keep them aside. Now I will create my loops. So I want this. I want one loop to go horizontally. So I will say while x is less than width. Now this is the width of the big image, and let's just write the outline of the loops and then see um, what we need to change to make things work correctly. So we can say y is less than height, y equals y plus 1, right? So what we want to do is something like this. I will take one of those add house statements from before and I'll modify it to work here. I want to be able to say x and y, and then the house is going to be added there. So now the problem is this. As I said, the rightmost x value, or the largest x value that I can have, is width minus stamp width. So I can't go up to width. It has to be less by the width of the stamp, or the house in this case. So that's the last value. It needs to reach this value. So what I will do is I will replace width with minus stamp width. I'll put it inside brackets also for better readability. And this is still not quite right. I can show you what happens. It's not going to go all the way to the right, and but I will just go ahead and do a similar modification to our height. So I will say height equals stamp height. Now that's again because, as we found out earlier, the bottommost, or the largest y value that we can reach is height minus stamp height, so that it'll sit in the sit at the bottom of the bigger picture without going over, right? So again, this is not good enough. I will show you why. So if I let this run, now the house will be smeared. That's okay, that's not the problem. It's just not going to go far enough. So it's doing its thing. It might take a bit of time to draw the whole. It's doing it across the entire image, so it'll take a little bit of time. You can actually see the progress if I there you go. All right, so now this is still being drawn and it's done fairly slowly. If I zoom into this thing, I can see that it's not going all the way to the bottom. There is a white line, there's a gap there, and if I actually let this run, I will be able to see that it's just not going far enough. So the reason for that is because we say while x is less than this value that I have highlighted, it's just not reaching that one, but we want it to be reached for the last value in that range. So I will need to say x is less than or equals and y is less than or equals, and that'll solve the problem. So now again, if I run this, it'll take a little bit of time to draw the whole thing, and it'll smear everything up. So now I don't want things to be smeared too much. So if I want things spaced out, I can change this by some value. Now I know my house is approximately 40 pixels wide. Now if I keep the same gap on both if I put 40 pixels on the x-axis as a gap, and 30 pixels on the y-axis, because that's the height of the house, I will have these houses nicely spaced out, and it will actually draw very quickly. And there it is. So now I can see everything right, going right to the edge without going over, fitting perfectly inside. So the way we could do this was by restricting the range of the loops so that we stop without going too far to the right. We limit it by subtracting the width of the smaller thing that we are drawing, or the smaller thing that we are putting on the image, and by subtracting the height of that smaller stamp or tile or whatever you want to call it, um, from the height of the bigger image. And so this is completely arbitrary. If I change this back to 1, it'll still work. There's no issue with that. And uh, that's that example.